Hi, I'm Ray Pointer, and this is Talking AI. And I'm delighted today that we've got with us Bethan Blakeley, CX and Research Manager at SimpliSafe. Hi, Bethan.
Hello, how you doing?
Really well, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Perhaps we can start with a quick introduction to yourself, a little bit about your agency background through then to working on the client side, and just a general introduction to what SimpliSafe is.
Sure thing. So I've been in research and insights now for about 15 years. I started off at the very, very beginning, coming into it from quite a technical background in maths, stats, and operational research, which is kind of like data science, and then landed kind of bringing together the analytics and the research side of things, combining the what and the why. Spent most of my career agency side, and it wasn't until probably about a year and a half ago now that I came to SimpliSafe, which was my kind of first big client side role. I'd done a secondment before then, but nothing permanent. So yeah, I just kind of still feel like I'm dipping my toes into the client side way of life, which is very different. And Simply Safe as a company, so we sell home security. So the company itself is a US based company. It's very big and it's kind of established over in the US, really big insights team over there. And about 4 or 5 years ago, they decided to set up in the UK. And I am the first insight hire and team of one, which is a great position to be in. But it's very busy. It's a very busy position to be in, which is how you want it to be, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, we're very much kind of still in that kind of startup, crazy mentality, very small team sort of thing. But yeah, it's great. I'm absolutely loving it.
So before we dive into discussing AI, actually, it might be really interesting for our listeners. Just what were the main changes that you went through? I know you've written about this elsewhere, going from agency side to client side.
I made the jump because I wanted to. I'd gotten a bit too comfortable, I think. I wanted to push outside of my comfort zone. I wanted to feel a bit scared again, I suppose. Which I definitely do now on a weekly basis, and then I kind of curse myself for it. Um, in terms of the differences, I think that one of the main differences, and again, this is one of the reasons I moved as well, was being able to see more of the after effect of what you do. I kind of felt like in agency, project would come in, you'd become an expert in that particular area for however many months, however many weeks it was. Um, and you'd deliver it and then you'd go, right, on to the next one, you know. And I built up some great relationships with a very few of my clients where I was able to see more of that through. I was kind of like presenting to PLC boards and seeing what decisions were made off the back of it. And I loved it. And I always felt like I wanted more of that. And I'm really enjoying getting more of that now. I was worried that I would miss the variety of agency side. But I think instead of a variety of industries, you just get a variety of kind of stakeholders and projects and things instead, and it gives you more of a chance to really delve into the kind of area and the people that you're working with. Um, Honestly, I worried that the industry that I was going into was going to be a little bit dry. But there's so many emotions at play. You're talking about security, you're talking about people's most valuable possessions, their homes, their families, their pets. You've got the added complexity of how much people trust the police, which then goes into government and politics, and it all gets
Mm.
kind of crazy there. So that wasn't as much of an issue at all as I thought it would be. Um, yeah, and I think it's that kind of that stakeholder management piece is obviously a much bigger deal when you move client side. And also the kind of the activation piece as well is much, people talk about it. I talked
Mm.
about it a lot when I was agency side. Um, but it really is a case of it doesn't matter how good the work you've done is. if nobody listens or nothing changes, may as well go straight into the bin. You know, you're
Absolutely.
much better off doing something really small, really cheap, really easy, and getting it to land than you are delivering something which is incredible, but nobody understands.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Or they
I
can't
mean,
see how to fit it into their
exactly,
actual business.
exactly. It needs to be realistic. And I think another thing that's kind of, I don't know if surprised me is the right way to put it, but just that importance of data triangulation. Because you'll be chatting to a stakeholder, you'll be trying to influence a decision. That stakeholder guaranteed will have seen another statistic or will have, analyzed some other data about whatever it is that you're talking about. And if you don't already know about that data and what you're saying looks like it contradicts, you've almost lost that stakeholder before you've started. Whereas if you go into that conversation going, I know that the behavioral data says X, Y, Z, and this is how that marries up with the data that I've got, even though it doesn't necessarily say the same thing,
Yeah.
then you've got them on board from the beginning. But trying to get your head around all of those different data points in a business is not easy. I'm still trying to get there myself. So,
Great. Okay, so jumping to my pet topic of AI,
mhm.
what is your take on AI at the moment? How do you see the world changing? What are you working with? What are you not working with?
Um, Big question. I mean, it's changed massively, right, already. Even things that well, I say that I definitely expected were just part of your normal everyday life are starting to disappear. Like I've started noticing that I don't really Google things anymore, you
Mm,
know? I'll put them into AI. And even if I do Google things, the first result that I see is AI generated anyway.
yes.
So even Google was so big and was so ingrained in human behavior that it became a verb. And now, I mean, in a few years, will it become obsolete to a certain degree, or it will certainly change, past the point that it does now. Um, so yeah, I think it's massively changed. I think I don't think we've got our heads around how much yet. And we had a conversation kind of before this call around the ethics side of things, and I was banging this drum years ago, and I'm still banging the same drum in terms of I feel like AI is developing faster than our understanding of it and also our ability to do it properly and ethically. They're not going at the same speed, which is worrying. The fact that you have to look at everything you see online now, you look at every photo and you count fingers, right? For me, that's the first thing. How many fingers has that person got? Can I spot whether that is real or whether it isn't? Um, Deep fake videos, everything, and it's just becoming more and more realistic. And it's really quite scary because you still have so many people out there who aren't doing those checks, aren't even aware of them, and just kind of blindly trust what's being put in front of them, um, which I think is dangerous. It's a bit worrying. So
Have you
yeah,
noticed any change in what suppliers are offering and claims they're making?
100%. And honestly, I don't think it's helping. I think it's just adding to the noise. And I think this is something that's obviously definitely changed coming client side is just the cold emails, the sales calls, the barrage of information you get from agencies that you never even knew existed. Um, I'm all for having a conversation with a human that I've had some sort of interaction with and talking about things that they're doing, but the cold emails is something else. But that's the first thing everyone talks about, is the latest AI thing that they've got and how it's better than everyone else's AI thing. Um, and some of it I can completely see. the point of. I can completely see how it would be useful, etc., etc. Some of it, I'm still a bit like, have we thought that through, as an industry? And honestly, there is so much out there that I haven't even started to get my head around yet. It's that classic case of the more you know, the more you know you don't know. It's just so overwhelming. There's so much stuff out there. Everyone's talking about it. And again, you don't know who to believe, who's doing it right, who isn't, who's using the correct ethics, who isn't. Um, and then I suppose you've got the opposite problem of that in terms of having to try and combat the data quality aspect because AI is coming in the other side of the funnel as well.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's massively changing the industry.
And what about stakeholders? Are they expecting to see more? Are they asking for you to do more with less by any chance?
Yeah, shock horror. Yes, definitely. And they're also using AI themselves a lot more as well. I had a classic example of this the other week, where I'd done a project for the kind of, the what I call the big cheeses. Um, and it was really urgent. I'd done it all, I'd presented it back, everyone was happy. And then I saw a message on Slack somewhere that said something along the lines of, "Oh, have you run this through ChatGPT to get a summary?" It was kind of my findings. And the response was, "Yes, I did, but honestly, Bethan's summary was better." So at first I was like, "Well done, I'm proud of that." But then also it made me think like people are doing that, and I need to be aware of the fact that people perhaps aren't even now reading what I'm sending to them or aren't even, listening to that conversation because they're passing it through AI first to get that summary. And then maybe they stop after that point.
Mm.
Which again is a bit like I need to be aware of that because that might well change how I go about it. And also I was a bit like, why didn't I think of doing that? I didn't even think about using AI to create the summary for my own work. Thankfully, I didn't need to. But yeah, and again, every conversation you have about budget and things like that, it's always a case of, well, can you do it yourself using Gemini, using ChatGPT, using XYZ? Is there a way we can make this faster, better, cheaper? Which is always the conversation that you're having, isn't it? But again, I think it's just about having that confidence to push back and say, the classic like, well, you technically could, but you will probably get something that's rubbish. So what do you want?
And thinking about next year, what sort of things do you think you might be looking at in terms of skills or things you'd like to try? Have you got an eye on some things in particular?
Yes, I was thinking about this the other day. I haven't got my head around yet synthetic data and kind of, digital twins and digital respondents and things like that. Again, I'm not yet convinced that it's something that we should be doing, particularly just taking the results and leading with them blindly anyway. But I need to look into it. I need to understand it. I need to understand the argument both sides a lot more. So I have already been speaking to agencies who are claiming, rightly or wrongly, to be very good at it, just so I can get a bit more of a grasp of the whole thing. Um, and also agentic AI. I want to get my head around a little bit more as well. Just because it feels like it's something that a lot of people are talking about a lot more now. And again, it feels like it's that kind of that next step, right? In terms of, but this is always my issue. Every next step, it feels like the results you get might be better, it might be faster and more efficient, etc. But it always feels like the price to pay for that is that you have less control and less understanding of what's happening. And maybe I'm just a bit too much of a control freak, and I like to see inside the black box. But I've never been a big fan of a black box. I want to see the nuts and bolts, which is where AI falls down sometimes, I think.
Great. Okay, Bethan, that's been fantastic. I think that's given people a lot of insights into life on the client side, and maybe don't just ring you up to say we're using AI.
Just jump into my inbox with everybody else, it's fine.
Or perhaps even find out what your problem is before they tell you what the answer is.
There you go.
Okay, then, Bethan, have a great day and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Cheers.